Biden's numbers have been terrible for weeks now. Politico with the headline, "The polls keep getting worse for Biden." Well, Marianne Williamson is still out there for Democrat voters who want anybody but Biden. And then there's Biden's latest Democratic 2024 challenger, Congressman Dean Phillips, who posted this. "As a member of House Democratic leadership, I supported and promoted the Biden agenda. I campaigned for him, voted for him, and respect him. But how can anyone read this," meaning that political article, "and conclude he's positioned to defeat Donald Trump?"
Hey there, guys. Welcome to the channel. So, guys, we've been seeing it for months and months now, if not years. The polls have been one by one turning on and turning against Joe Biden. And, you know, they started off by ignoring him. Then they tried to explain to us that they were all wrong. And then they had interesting rebuttals, like the time Joe told Peter Doocy that you guys at Fox, you only quote 2 out of 10 polls, and I'm far out ahead in 8 out of 10, which is total cognitive struggle fantasy is all that is. But now, one of the more trusted Democrat pollsters has delivered probably their worst news yet, on CNN no less, which generally has been one of the places that their fantasies are basically allowed to flourish and kind of run wild, right? But now they're talking about a very real and troubling reality for the Democrats. Troubling if you're a Democrat, it's not troubling for us. That when you account for minority voters, and all minorities basically, even the polls that have targeted LGBTQ folks specifically, they have surprised the left. Literally everyone. They are all turning towards Trump, at least in favorability. And the left basically, they cannot win anything without these people. Without the identity politics trifecta, they're finished. There's nothing they can do without their identity politics, without the people they basically rely on. And, you know, the point is that, you know, long captive Democrat voters, they're giving Trump higher approval ratings than their own sitting president. And this is absolutely not good if you're a Biden.
Tonight, quote, "This is grim." Those are the words of the veteran Democratic pollster Stanley Greenberg. Those words about his latest poll of thousands of voters in the Battleground states. Greenberg, who teams up with James Carville at the Democracy Corps, found that among voters who usually make up the Democratic base, young voters, black voters, Hispanic voters, Asian voters, LGBTQ voters, get this, all of them collectively gave Donald Trump a higher approval rating than President Biden. Those findings despite increasingly positive economic news. Just today, the jobs report showing 199,000 jobs added last month in November. The unemployment rate dropping to just 3.7%. Stan Greenberg is out front tonight. Stan, we've known each other a long time. You've been doing this a long time. You paint a very grim picture. I know you say grim, but let's start with the grim. What was the most sobering thing you learned about the president's standing?
Yes, I reiterated grim plus because there is a path, but the grim is in the fact that the base is the problem. You have we're behind in this race in the base. Approval of the president is lower than that of Trump. In the base, and probably the hardest part about that is that it's the issues that play. It's not just we're not doing well now, and inevitably the structure of the race, will come back. I think we're dealing with issues of prices, wages not keeping up with inflation. We're dealing with crime. We're dealing with the border. So we're dealing with issues that are eroding our people on the issues. Now we can, I believe, get them back. I think there's a path in this poll. There's a structure that's actually pretty democratic. If you look beyond the president's numbers. But there's also a path for him, in these.
You asked voters about 32 specific topics, and the President of the United States led on only 6 of those 32. His bright spots included women's rights, climate change, addressing racial inequality. I want you to go through that and give me your view of how he gets on the path back. But let me frame it this way. We spent a lot of time together in a campaign a long time ago. There was an incumbent president, George H.W. Bush, who, like this president, kept saying, look, the numbers are finally getting better. The economy is getting better. George H.W. Bush was unable to convince the American people, and Bill Clinton won the presidency because people wanted change, and they wouldn't listen. Is President Biden at risk of having an electorate that wants change and won't listen?
I think he's going to be listening, because I think this poll, I believe, will matter.
Yeah, so you guys see that. You hear that. And it's beginning to look like they really, really are in serious trouble, even with their very, very always dependable voting groups, the identity politics groups. And really, it's painful to watch, honestly, these very wealthy media people basically intimate that people are just stupid, giving low marks on the economy when we've seen it, as they put it, increasingly positive economic news, whatever the hell that means. Apparently, according to them, more jobs created, 199,000 jobs, and a low employment number are increasingly positive economic news. The problem that these people are having a hard time figuring out, really grasping, is that no one is impressed with this, and no one is feeling the impact of 199,000 jobs. That basically means nothing. And here's why it means nothing. In October, just a month and a half ago, there were 8.5 million people working 2 jobs. Most of them were women. And so really, how many of those 199,000 new jobs are just those citizens having to get a third job? I don't know. And honestly, here's why none of that seems to matter. Even those people with 2 and 3 jobs, they're having a hard time putting food on the table for their families. So you can tell them all you want that there's increasingly positive economic news. And honestly, that looks more like a serious liability to me, because people, they're not feeling it. They don't feel any positive economic news. And let me know in the comments if you agree with that, or if you have maybe a different perspective. And another thing that really bothers me, about these people, the people we just watched, and many like them, they keep saying it's grim. Losing the support of this group or that group is grim. And they talk about the path to, regaining their trust. Guys, they're talking about gaslighting. The path to regain your voters' trust is not by gaslighting and tricking them, with identity politics or whatever until they come back around. That's not what got us to this place in the first place. It is not grim that people are finally realizing that their government is doing a terrible job. It's a relief. It is a relief. People are finally, they're waking up. If all he had done was continued a few Trump policies and continued having success, they wouldn't be having any problems at all. But they put identity politics over putting America first. So identity politics, they cannot save you now. This is what got us in this problem. They said it themselves. The president leads on women's rights, which is just a very, very vanilla way to say abortion. And he leads on climate change and racial equity. These are backseat issues, man. These are things that can only be important when you're not currently starving. And a lot of his voters, they're currently starving. I think it feels like the single issue voters, the people who only vote on this or only vote on that, whatever, generally it's, very specialty issues that don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Those people are shrinking. Those numbers are shrinking. And it's funny to me that these people think that these polls can help the president fix things. They haven't done their job for 3 years. They can't fix it now in just a couple of months. It takes actual action. And more than that, it takes actual results. And they're not going to get that. But anyway, that's just my take, guys. Let me know in the comments what you think. And if you haven't already, help us to continue to grow. Like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. We'll see you in the next